Hi there, it's Wendy Hernandez, and welcome to another episode of Command the Courtroom. I'm thrilled today to bring to you a very special guest, Florence Ann Romano. Florence Ann is the Windy City Nanny. You can find her at www.windicitynanny.com. She's an author, philanthropist, and child care expert who's always had a special place in her heart for children. She worked as a nanny for 15 years, and Florence believes the key to success for a family is focusing on what she has coined the trifecta: parent, child, and caretaker working in unison towards family goals. Florence's YouTube series, The Windy City Nanny, sheds light on the variety of childcare challenges we see across the country. She has a children's book. It's called Nanny and Me, and it prepares children for the transition from being cared for solely by their parents to being cared for by somebody else. And Florence is a favorite guest expert on several media outlets, including Home and Family, The Doctor and the Diva, Fox News, Good Day Chicago, WGN, The Jenny McCarthy Show, Sirius XM, Chicago Parent, Working Mother Magazine, and more. Florence, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Wendy, I'm so thrilled to be here. What a great way to start my day.
Yay. Well, I'm thrilled to have you here too. And so as we're recording this, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
And, I think that we're experiencing what people are saying is the second wave. Right. And it's right around the holidays. We're, in the middle of Hanukkah and on the verge of Christmas.
Right.
I know you're going to share tips that can be applied year round, but why I really wanted to talk to you is because I know you have new school tips for preserving the old school holiday traditions and values this year and in future years, but especially right now as we're in the pandemic. Right. So can you talk to me about why you are spreading the word about these new school traditions?
Well, when you think about the holidays, Wendy, everyone gets excited. I mean, I'm sitting here with my peppermint candy candle burning. You probably see my tree in the background.
Beautiful. I love it.
I am ready to go. And so, there's so much magic and joy within the holiday season. And no matter how you celebrate it, whether it's Christmas or it's Hanukkah or it's Kwanzaa or whatever it is, you look forward to tradition in life. And it's those traditions that keep you going. And I would hate to think that during this pandemic, we would not want to lean into those things that we look forward to now more than ever, because mentally, emotionally, physically, this has been so draining. This has been so hard. And I don't want to take the magic of the holidays away from anyone. So if we need to reimagine it a little, pivot it a little, then let's do it, because it's worth that. Because you know what? You may end up finding out that you do something this year that becomes a new tradition, something that's birthed from this crazy year that we're having.
Oh my God. I love the idea of reimagining, because I think, and I do this myself, I get stuck in the old and I'm not open to expansion. And what this pandemic, I think, is forcing so many of us to do is to expand. So,
right. And I think, Wendy, so many parents out there are like, Florence Ann, don't you dare give me one more craft to do. I cannot handle anything else. And I understand it's a lot of work to think, I want you to go ahead and reinvent, reimagine, and do all that. So you know what? I take that work on myself, and I'm happy to do it for you, because I understand right now you're just trying to survive everything. And you don't want to sit there thinking, I have to be creative now. Now that's the next thing on my list with e-learning and everything. Now I have to be creative. So I was thinking about things that we look forward to. And the first thing I'll mention is, caroling is one of those, old school traditions. You see it in every Christmas or holiday movie you watch. Everyone goes caroling. And I said to my family the other day, I said, I want to go caroling. I think this would be so fun during this time to just show up at someone's door and start singing. And so they're like, Florence Ann, please don't ever do that to anyone. You can't sing at all. And no one would do that. I mean, please don't do that. But I was thinking to myself, no one's having company over. No one's seeing people right now. But if you go ring that doorbell, fly backwards, however, many feet you need to be away, have that mask on, and just start singing your heart out, like kind of like a flash mob for the holidays. I mean, how fun would that be? I would love opening my door and seeing that. And if you don't want to do that in person, do it. You could record yourself on the computer. You could send that video to family and friends. You could all be wearing matching pajamas or whatever it is that you want to do, and then say, kind of tag your it to some family friends and be like, your turn to send some joy to someone. So kind of, two different ways of doing that.
I love that for a couple of reasons. One, because there are so many people who are isolated,
right,
and they are not leaving the house.
Right.
And for somebody to show up at their door and spread that joy, that cheer, I think that would really mean a lot to a person. And then I think for the people who may be suffering with isolation and loneliness, song heals.
Yeah.
And so, right, if you're doing it and you're going to do a flash mob type thing, like you suggested, or doing it on video, I think just singing a song lifts your spirits. It does.
It does. And it's just, everyone loves surprises. And I think right now, just to see someone there in front of you, even if you're going to sing, if it's someone that can't open the door and they're really vulnerable and it's through the window and they can hear you singing out there, and they could see your face, especially these people who are in nursing homes and who are very isolated or have immune deficiencies where they really can't be around people if they're in cancer treatment or sort of things like that. So just trying to think of different ways so people don't feel isolated, like you said, because that isolation does really wear on you. And we're seeing that not just with our older population, but also younger people. I've seen so many statistics come out about how teenagers are feeling right now, mentally and emotionally. And so, maybe in a normal year, they wouldn't think it's the coolest thing in the world to flash mob carol. This year, I think everyone's like, I'll do anything to see a human being.
Exactly. So I love it. It's a great way to take away the feeling of isolation and pass on some of these old traditions to our kids in a new way. So I love caroling. So what else do you have?
There are so many things this year I think we can reimagine. One thing that I always suggest to people, because we are so isolated and we are having to pivot to kind of virtual ways of speaking to each other, and even virtual ways that you're going to celebrate the holidays. I come from a big Italian family. There is no big Italian celebration on Christmas Day, that we would usually have. And so I was thinking about growing up and the traditions that we had. And I lived with my grandparents growing up. They lived with us growing up. My mom's parents lived with us my whole life, basically. And they've since passed on. But one thing we always did was we took out the video camera and we would ask Nana and Papa about their lives, about what things cost and the war. And I heard those war stories, Wendy. Easily 100 times each. And, each time they got a little bit different, a little more exaggerated and everything like that. My grandmother was hysterical. She'd look at my grandfather, go, Adam, that's not even true. You're not even saying it the right way anymore. So we had so much fun. It was just a big, boisterous, really fun life-filled house. And we used to record my grandparents telling these stories and us telling stories. And now, since they're gone, having that is so important because you hear their voices, you see their faces, and you want to be able to carry on that for posterity because there are generations to come that will never know these amazing people. And you want to be able to preserve that. So if you're going to get together with people virtually, even if it's not old people, it doesn't have to be old people, you record your session with your family, hit that record button. And so you have this for posterity. And I know everyone's like, I do not want to remember a thing from 2020, but I'm telling you, in a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to wish that you had actually marked this year in some sort of way, especially the moments that you're gathering or that you're enjoying yourselves or having fun or telling those stories. So don't get too caught up in the right now and the feelings of right now with this pandemic, because eventually it will pass. And eventually we are going to wish that we did somehow mark this time in history.
I so agree with you. And, speaking of just having those for future generations, those videos, and mementos, my dad lost 3 sisters this year, his only 3 sisters, crazy, and I think that they were so connected and they were best friends that they just couldn't live without each other. That's what I think. They were heartbroken, which is sad. But, what I loved is that in recent years, his sisters were very involved in Facebook, ladies in their close to 80s. And so they would go into Facebook and just type out stories about when they were little and when my dad was little. And and I had to go back and save all of those from Facebook because I think those stories are potentially going to die with them from their perspective. So that's why what you're suggesting is so important, because there are people who are going to appreciate it, the children and their children. So important. Thank you, Florence.
Give me goosebumps. I'm so sorry for all that loss in your family, but like you said, it does sound like they just didn't want to be without each other. And what a beautiful sentiment, that they had that love. And those journals, kind of what really those are, and God bless them for having the thought to do that. Because I mean, listen, I meet people that age all the time, and they have no idea even what Facebook is. So they were really very savvy. Yeah. My goodness gracious. I mean, probably more so than I am even. So that's amazing that they did that. You think back on, and I think about my Nana and Papa, and they were the loves of our life. And, when we look back on things that they've written or trips that they've taken, and, just that was a different generation regarding kind of how they documented life. And I just don't think we do that as much anymore. Even my family will say, gosh, we don't take enough pictures, or we don't take enough videos anymore. And, it's great for social media purposes that we have that documentation. If you're very active in social media, then yes, you would have that for the future. But then at the same time, you laugh and think, oh my gosh, the photos of my grandparents versus the photos we see today of people taking of themselves. I always think to myself, would I want to show my child this picture of me from when I was young, taking a selfie?
I know.
Stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I'm like thinking to myself, look at it through a different lens. You think about my Nana and Papa, the photos, they were all dressed and so dapper and so elegant. And then you see some photos on Instagram today, and you're like, you're going to show your grandchildren these photos of yourself. So I think sometimes you really do need to pay attention to the older generations and take some lessons there. We're talking about old school traditions and new school traditions right now. I am a person that believes in balance in life. I don't think we need to always be swinging each way drastically on the pendulum here. And so if we are going to take things from our past and try to reimagine things in our future, I think we need to take the things that are honorable and the things that we want to preserve from our past and make sure that we carry that on. Because if my generation doesn't do that, then it doesn't go on, because it is up to us to be interested and be active in that. And so I could go on and on about it, but what I really want people to understand is, you want to pay attention to those that came before you and the things that are important to those people, because it is something eventually you're going to wish you paid more attention to, and you want it to be the threads of your family. So speaking of which, my next item that I want to talk about talks about this a bit. So again, everyone thinks if I never hear the word COVID again, it will be too soon. And I understand totally. But I think this would be a cool year to do a time capsule, because you are going to want to look back on this. Now think about when you're in school. In school, you were reading your history books and you're reading about all these things that happened in the past. And everyone asks, someone eventually in a future generation, where were you when this happened? A grandchild's going to ask you that. Just like people ask today, where were you when 9/11 happened? I know exactly where I was. I know exactly what happened. And during this pandemic, I know a grandchild one day will ask me, what was the pandemic of 2020 like? And so I believe that if we put together a time capsule this year and then say, all right, all going into a box, we're not opening this for 10 years or putting it in a closet, that would be so interesting a decade from now to look at. Whether you put pictures in there or little trinkets or a thumb drive with videos, it would be so cool. I think totally goosebump factor in a decade to open that up and see.
I love it.
What happened then. And also to be able to reflect also on what's changed in that decade. What did we actually take from 2020 that changed the future? Because things are going to change. Things will change in the future based on what we experienced this year. And I'm saying good things, I think, will come from what we've learned this year. One thing for me, it's childcare. Childcare has never been more important than it was during this pandemic, because all the daycare shut down, nannies couldn't be in the home, all of a sudden the childcare crisis was front and center. And I really do believe that because of this pandemic, childcare is going to be something that is going to be on the docket for government going forward, saying we can't have that happen again. So there has to be good things that come from this. And so I think a time capsule is a good way of being able to mark that.
I love that. So far I have 3 things I'm doing, which are caroling, posterity videos, and a time capsule. So
You're ready. Even just with those 3 things that will keep you busy. And for those of you out there that are like, I do not have any time to do this during the holidays, you could do a time capsule anytime, coming up in the next few months. And, who says you can't do a flash mob that's, not holiday themed coming in the next few months? You just go and start singing, and you can really make any of these things happen through, at a normal time during the year if you really wanted to. But one more thing that I wanted to discuss kind of regarding, Christmas, but this is something you can also use in the new year in any sort of way. So, the 12 days of Christmas song. There's the 12 days of Christmas, the 8 days of Hanukkah. So I'm kind of riffing on that with the 12 acts of kindness and the 12 days of kindness or the 8 days of kindness. I do believe that this time of year is a great time to teach philanthropy, to teach giving back. One thing my dad always did with us when we were younger was every Christmas Eve, we were assigned a family through our church, and we went and took food and presents and, to these people's homes on Christmas Eve. And I remember being a little girl walking into these homes, and I can still tell you what these people looked like in my child's brain and what the children looked like. And what an amazing moment for me as a child to see a child that was my age that lived very differently than I did, that was going to have a very different Christmas than I was going to. It was humbling. It wasn't a word I knew back then at 5 years old, but that's what that was. And I do think children need to experience that feeling of being humbled in life and learning what that is. And adults need to also, check yourself. You need to be humbled in life about, how blessed you are, or how fortunate you've been. And so this, I think, would be a great time to do the 12 acts of kindness. And I'm going to give you a variation. You could, again, no crafts for you parents out there that are like, don't you give me one more thing. I'm not. So you could stick just a piece of paper up in your kitchen or somewhere visible for the home and say, okay, for these 12 days leading up to Christmas, or, just these 12 days in the new year, it could be whatever. You're going to do 12 acts of kindness. Maybe one is that you're not going to fight with your siblings. Easy. Okay. Right. That's like a blessing to those parents for sure. Another one could be writing a letter to a child in a hospital, a veteran, someone in an elderly, home. It could be going through their toys, donating something to Goodwill. You could really come up with anything you want to be those 12 acts of kindness or those 8 days of kindness, however you celebrate. But it's putting the emphasis on giving back. And I think this is a great time as well. I keep kind of talking to different families about what should you be focusing on during this pandemic. And in the very beginning, parents would say to me, my kids are so far behind with school. I don't know how they're ever going to catch up. I cannot keep up with this, with the remote learning, all of it. And I said, every child right now is in the same boat, honestly. They're in the same boat. So if you're going to focus on anything right now, you do the best you can with that school, but maybe focus on things that you don't normally get to talk about because life gets in the way. Maybe talk more about values and kindness and philanthropy and empathy and tolerance and compassion and all these different manners. I mean, you could focus on those things maybe this year. Maybe those are the lessons you're going to have. Maybe you're going to have more family dinners. Maybe you're going to have more quality time. And so, it's about the things you can learn, about the things that you you always in the back of your mind as those parents are making those lists in their mind before they go to sleep at night. You're like, oh, I wish I could do this. Oh, I want to remember to do this. And I wish I had more time to spend, do that with my children. Well, right now, I would say it's more important to work on what's going on here and here than the math. Honestly, I'm going to be quite honest. I almost flipped myself with my hand. I got too excited. That's more important to me, honestly, is working on what's on the inside.
Yes, I'm with you 100%. My daughter has been in remote learning since March. And there's a part of me, because I'm type A, that's been worried about, is she going to be behind? Will she ever catch up? But you're right. Like all the kids are in the same situation. And I've been working from home. This is allowing me an opportunity to do some of the things you're suggesting that I really don't have the ability to do under normal circumstances. So I think it's fantastic to bring that, to top of mind for a lot of people, and to me again. There's so many things we need to work on.
And it's not that you have to do everything at once. Everyone always thinks that, they have to be super mom and super dad and super aunt and super sister. And, we can't do everything well at the same time. And every time I say that, I think people are like, yeah, but, we can't just constantly be failing every day either. But that the truth is, you're going to fail at certain things, and failure is okay. We have to teach our children that it is okay to do that maybe not everything is going to get done. And maybe your behavior that day wasn't the best. You're going to try again tomorrow. But for parents out there that are struggling just on this day-to-day basis to survive, I want you to start thinking about it this way. It's not about every single day doing everything right. It's about certain days you are going to succeed more than others. You are going to accomplish more than others, but it doesn't mean that you didn't do your job, that you weren't the best mother for those children, that you weren't the best father for those children. No matter, even on your worst day, you are still the arms that they need around them. You are still doing your best. And we are all in the same boat in a global way. We have never been more bonded, and everyone can understand each other for the first time, probably, saying we're all experiencing so many of the same things. And so I don't want people to sit there and think, I failed at everything today. It's certain days you are going to do better than others, and that's okay. It's a day-to-day basis that you need to be judging yourself on. It's not this holistic, like out of the 365 days this year, I was a great parent, 47 of them. No one's keeping track that way. And I want people to take the pressure off of themselves. It's a day-to-day.
That's beautiful wisdom. And, my question that sparks is, what do you think the value is for our children in seeing parents, quote, failing or just not being the best that they can be? I mean,
it's a great question, Wendy. And I think about that a lot. You want your children to see you be human. You want them to know that you're not always perfect, and you don't expect perfection from them. We expect you to do your best, be the best version of yourself, but we also have to expect that of ourselves. And, we see a lot, with adults regarding, I think, kind of, it's like rules for thee, but not for me sort of thing. Children are watching you. Children are absorbing your energy. They are listening to the language you use. And, we just went through a very political year, and I would get a lot of, it's the last couple of years, because once the elections start going, it's like a couple of years worth of stuff. And so I would get so many DMs from people saying, I am so frustrated. I'm so nervous. And it's bleeding out into their family, and they'd be yelling at the TV or, writing mean things on, Facebook or social media and things like that. And your kids are watching. And then you all of a sudden wonder why your child is reacting to something in a way that you're like, where did they learn this behavior? Well, sometimes you have to look at yourself and wonder, are they learning it from me? So I'm not blaming parents out there for being emotional. Of course, you can have your feelings, teach your children to have their feelings, but there are appropriate ways to express our feelings. There are appropriate ways that we communicate with other people when we disagree with other people. Being a parent or being a role model in general for children is a lot of work, and we are not always going to do the right thing. So when you mess up, you look at your child and say, mommy or daddy or the nanny or aunt or uncle or whatever, I messed up. I didn't do this well. I said this, I did this. You know what? I should have probably done this. You got to teach them in the moment, and you can't be afraid to be imperfect in front of them. And they have to know that they're not bad people if they mess up, that, that they have a chance to redeem themselves, that they have a chance to continue to work on themselves. We as adults need to work on ourselves too. But I really feel that it's so important that we really too take seriously the role we play in children's lives. No matter what your role is in a child's life, you have to make a concerted effort to be the best version of yourself that you can. And when you mess up, you own it and make it a learning opportunity.
Oh, this has been wonderful, Florence Ann. You have so much advice. I mean, I was checking out your website and your blog earlier, and there's things that I need to look at, like mommy guilt one, you know.
That's a popular one. That's popular.
And, but I'm encouraging all of the viewers out there, if you don't already know Florence Ann, please check her out. And Florence Ann, can you tell me more about what you do and how you can help people?
Sure. So you can go to windicitynanny.com, like you mentioned, Wendy, and my book is available there, Nanny and Me. I wrote it after being a nanny for 15 years. And I wanted to write a book that taught children about that transition of being cared for by your parents to being cared for by a nanny or a caretaker. Wendy, over 64% of families in America today have a nanny or a caretaker. And in my mind, I think, we have to really take a look at this because other people are helping us raise our children. And it's important that we have the right people in that village. And my 3 pillars of Windy City Nanny really come down to 3 kind of pillars of my heart, which is to build your village, to ask for help, and to let love in. And those are kind of the ways that I feel we need to vet all of our situations. And I'm here to help you through these critical times and these pandemic times, but on the other side of it as well. I think very often feel like we're in it alone, or we don't have anyone to talk to, or, just someone that's going to listen. And I want to be that person for you. And so I answer every DM I get on Instagram. If you follow me, Windy City Nanny. I am there for you. Aunt Lo is my nickname. The kids in my life call me Aunt Lo. So I always say, I am your Aunt Lo. I am your kids' Aunt Lo. I'm your friend Lo. And I really want to wrap my virtual arms around you. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. and you're breastfeeding and you're in a very low moment, or you want to share the birth of your child with me. I will celebrate you and also walk with you through those hard moments. So that's my job, and it's an honor. So I hope that any of you out there that are feeling like you need some support in some way with your life, with your family, I'm here for you.
Oh my gosh. And I got chills just listening to that, and I can feel it. And I know, that you're helping tons of people, and I know you're going to help several who watch this, if not hundreds or thousands. Oh. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're going to make me cry. Oh my God.
This has been really fun. And I hope that we have the opportunity to do it again. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Just feeling like we're just gabbing along here, having a good time. I wish I was sitting there drinking a hot cup with you. And it'd be so fun. So thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for you out there watching, remember until next time to keep on trucking, get out there and command the courtroom, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.